Birgit Walker. I'm the founder and executive director of Children's Prison Arts Project. For the last 35 years, I have introduced creative, innovative, artistic programs to high-risk youth in the shanty towns of Brazil, in the ghettos of Boston, Pittsburgh, and New York City and Harlem. Before I started working with youth, I was active with the Living Theater, and we toured Europe, Brazil, and the United States in the 60s and 70s. A theater that was very progressive and talked about the possibility of change in our society. Over the last 15 years, I'm working with children and youth in juvenile correctional facility here in Harris County. There's the latest report from the Southern Poverty Law Center talks about children. There are over 100,000 children daily in juvenile correctional facilities in the United States of America. And 70% of these children have mental and learning disabilities, which I have noticed for many years already, because when we work with children in the theater program, they write their own stories, and many of the children cannot write or don't have the vocabulary to express themselves, which is very sad. So these children have been forgotten in the system. And then they end up in the juvenile correctional facilities. For children to grow and learn in the juvenile correctional facilities, there must be other ways than using punishment as an enforcer. That's when the artists and arts education comes into these institutions, which I know from experience is a very successful program. There had been studies done several years ago by the Juvenile Department out of Washington and the National Endowment for the Arts, where they evaluated arts programming in juvenile correctional facilities. And the evaluation showed that arts programs relinquent, less children go back into the system, and it increases their self-esteem and self-worth immensely, which is a big problem because children come into these institutions and they have no self-esteem. They think they are nothing, they're nobody. They come often from dysfunctional families who often don't even want the children back into their family structure. So the institutions have to find replacements for these children. We, Children's Prison Arts Project, we are 3 people basically working in the institutions and visual artists, myself and Jean Donato as theater instructors. We work with a small group of people. There are around 10 children in the theater program and 2 to 4 people in the visual art program. Because we are not only teaching art, we are also teaching social behavior through the arts, increase self-esteem, self-worth, to help youth create a critical consciousness which is not happening in our society. In the school system there is very little, at least in the ghetto schools that I have worked in, there is very little focus on constructive criticism. And that's a very important part in anybody's life. We also believe that through the arts, kids can take the skills and create art when they get out of the institutions, instead of coming back into the institution by doing the same stuff they did in the first place. So they're learning art skills, theater skills, and also speaking skills, because they have not learned how to talk in front of people, which is very important, because even if they go down to the judge, they have to talk for themselves sometimes, and it's important to not be afraid to talk in front of people. In our program, more children want to come to our program all the time than we can handle, because we don't want to become the police. In small groups, we can really work very well. And in the theater, we have children from different ethnic groups. They learn how to tolerate and have empathy for different ethnic backgrounds. There's also one thing which is kind of funny, how to touch each other in these facilities. So through the arts, through theater, I mean, there's a lot of movement and holding each other's hands and touching each other's, because that's part of the scene. And sometimes we get the feedback from the kids, well, we're not allowed to touch each other. I tell them, well, now we in the arts, in the theater, it is allowed. You are all right. Children's Prison Arts Project focuses on incarcerated youth because of the great need these children have for positive intervention. Through art, we can channel anger constructively. Through art, we can create positive self-images and self-expression and develop cognitive, social, and personal competencies. Through the arts, we empower a population that few programs can reach really in these institutions. Because through the arts, children write their own ideas, what they want, what they have to say, and what are the possibilities for change. Now, often they don't have no visions for change, so we ask them that we can change ourselves, we can help change our communities and help to better the planet we are living on. Now, in these days of economic downturn, there are really not many jobs for these children. So what are they going to do when they go out of these institutions? That is, I think, a very important question, and I'm putting these questions to people out in the community, because we have to create infrastructures where children can go into other places where they feel safe and can create positive things through the arts or sports or any form of art, period. What excites me very much all the time is when I see the young people come to the program. Often we have children that come again into the program, so we have them many times if they're still in the same institution, because there's a lot of turnover sometimes in these institutions. And they really, I remember just recently, there was one young boy, and he looked up to my coworker like the great role model. And every time he came to the program, he talked to her and he told about his problems and his thoughts, and that is really incredible, because you create a trust among these children so they feel safe to be part of an endeavor that is new to them, because many of the children never drew, they never were in any theater program, they never saw any performances. So there's a cultural disadvantage as well. Now, I have worked also in the ghettos and shanty towns here in this town, and it is a war zone. So if you're born in a war zone, that's all you know. You know the gangs, what's happening, you know the drug dealing, and you're in a place that is really unsafe. And often there's a lot of dysfunctionalities among the families. And also using nonviolent methods through theater, so they can learn how